Welcome back.
Oh no, spooky person. Who are
Oh,
you?
spooky guest. Wait, host. Oh, I
Wait,
almost.
what?
Uh, I'm the guest and the host, I guess. Hostess with the
A,
mostest.
a spooky guest host.
Not the Nerd for No Reason podcast.
We're gonna use that right there that you just said. Uh, what's up, everybody? I am Mark.
Hey, what's going on? It's your girl, Raven. Ah,
Oh.
oh,
Uh, we're like them two people in Beetlejuice, where they're just like making all kinds of.
yeah.
It's like Jesus Christ,
Dude, when I said
stop it.
hostess with the mostest, that's what I was thinking of. Beetlejuice. I love
So,
Beetlejuice.
Raven, this is the first time we've talked in like 2 weeks. Uh,
Hey, man.
we've had very, very busy weeks since I think we
Shh.
talked last.
We sure have.
Uh, I, boy, let me tell you something. Actually, why don't you? I want to hear, or unless you want to save it for the things that made us happy, unless you got something else, uh, give us like a brief rundown of what you and Chris did last weekend.
Last weekend, we went to Florida.
Whoop whoop.
Um,
Did them bath salts.
yeah, dude. The people that were driving in Florida were making some crazy moves. Chris was over there like, man, these drivers are worse than Tennessee drivers. I was like, dude, I know that you talk a lot of shit on these Tennessee drivers, but I lived in Kentucky for a while. I saw some crazy stuff down there. Florida, you know they don't play. But we left on a Thursday and we got up. We went to take the boys to go be boarded at our vet, get all their shots and stuff taken care of while they were there. And that was like 8 o'clock that we dropped them off. And then we went and got breakfast. We hit the interstate. And then, of course, my car starts making some funky noise. And I'm like,
Oh no.
oh, what's going on here? My like tire pressure was good. We pull off and we just check them just in case like my little gauge system's not working. We're like, okay, so we get back on the interstate and nope, they're still perfectly fine. So I was like, huh, interesting. And we're driving, the noise keeps coming back, and I was like, this is making me uncomfortable. We're not about to make this 9-hour drive with the sound of dunk 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 dunk. And so we go over to tire discounters, and then the next thing that I know, I spent over $200. That was not on the problem, because the problem was that apparently at some point, uh, your girl likes to hit enough curbs, and she accidentally, when she's parking, she pulls up on the curb and then goes,
Mm-hmm.
huh, what was that? And then just backs up a little bit. So at some point, I just messed up just enough of the front of my bumper, and it was making a weird noise in the wind.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the $200 stuff was something else. And I was like, well, I guess that's good that I know that, even though that wasn't the issue. Um, but our drive was pretty good. It was a little rainy, but when we get there, um, it was like humid after we had had like beautiful weather here in Tennessee, because fall was just doing the thing. It was doing the good weathers that everyone wants. And we
Yep.
get there and it's just like hot and humid because it's been raining and it's Florida. The next 2 days were pretty nice. On Saturday, we did the wedding. Chris was a groomsman and he had such a good time with being able to like see some of his friends from college. We went out and we did some stuff with some of the other groomsmen. That night we went to a karaoke bar and I've never done karaoke before. But we did it at this like cool Japanese anime place. And so that was really fun. And then we came back and, you know, do what we do. It was a really nice time to kind of hang out with Chris without dogs. But we had the worst mattress at our hotel. It was literally like springs are like oop, half a centimeter away from
A
your back.
centimeter?
A centimeter. Half a centimeter away from your back. And every time I tried to like sleep, I woke up with such bad back pain. I'm like, I'm 26 and I feel like I'm like 80 years old. And Chris was just like, I don't know why it's not affecting me, but I'm sorry. But it was a good time.
Good.
No real complaints other than that bed. How about you, Mark? How was how was your past weekend?
Oh man. Uh, well, my trip started the Tuesday after Columbus Day, because I had to go to Colorado Springs for a work trip, and we went and, or well, I say we, I went and did that with some people that I work with, and I went to Colorado Springs, and that was pretty fun. It was just me, but I got to meet some people that work in a different office a few of them that I've never met before, but I talk to every week due to the whole telework thing and
Yeah.
kind of the way our organization's set up and all of that kind of thing. Uh, so so that was cool. I got to meet them. We went out and had dinner. They were real nice. Everything was pretty cool. Um, and then after spending a couple days there, I flew from Denver, Colorado to Las Vegas, Nevada via Amarillo, Texas. Thank you, Southwest.
Ooh.
Uh, um, and once I did that, um, me and a buddy, we stayed at the Golden Nugget on Fremont Street, which is old Vegas for those of y'all that don't know. And Fremont Street is kind of like this really kind of cool outdoor party area where it has like this thing over it, and they do like a little light show over it and all of that stuff. And there's a bunch of casinos that you can just literally like walk across the street to. It's kind of like the Strip, but like a little bit more kind of condensed.
Yeah.
And we didn't experience the Fremont Street experience, because we were kind of busy. Um, the only
Fair.
time we walked up and down Fremont Street was like in the morning when there is absolutely nothing happening. But we were there for the wedding, and for the wedding of my friends. We call them the two Alexes, Alex and Alexandria, friends of mine that were here in Georgia, and then they PCS'd, military moved them out to Vegas, and it was super fun. And when I tell you that I was super nervous to get up there and officiate that wedding, I
Yeah.
mean, like I was going over my notes and over and over and over, and I kept asking questions. It was like, hey, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to? I don't know. And we um uh I'm kind of debating on whether or not if I should have dressed up in Lord of the Rings garb, because
Ooh.
just about everyone did except for the bride and groom.
Yeah.
And in kind of retrospect, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of glad that I didn't, because, as the officiant and the bride and groom, like, let everyone else have their party, be out in the thing, sitting in the seats, but the people up on stage, let us dress, fancy.
Yeah.
Uh, but I did the thing. Everyone was super happy, and it was really a fun time. I got to meet some cool new people, and I'll kind of get into a little bit more detail when we get into kind of the things that make us happy at the
Nice.
end of the show, because a lot of things have made me happy over the past week.
Fair.
So
But that's super cool that they did Lord of the Rings type ceremony.
it was very cool, and I was really happy that that everything kind of went the way that I rehearsed it. So, like, there was a couple times when I had a couple jokes in there, and I gave like a little second break, to hear a laugh, and all my jokes were hitting.
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know
you don't
so
want that like one joke to be like, or someone just
Well, it has to,
in the
right,
audience.
right, the singular cough.
Yeah,
But it
worst.
was, I feel like I timed it just good enough to where um, the it wasn't too heavy. It wasn't a stand up bit. You know, I wasn't working out new material or anything like that, but I could just throw in a joke and it was like, I get that. That's funny. You're
Yeah,
cool.
nice.
Um, and of course, I ended it with um, may the gods smile upon your house. May your adventures always be great. And may the force be with you always. And they really dug that, you know.
Oh,
And the guy who was officially signing the papers, I was the witness, and the guy who was officially signing the papers to turn it all in and all that, he was like, "Man, you did real good." I'm like, "Thanks, man." I really felt like I was going to pass out because I felt my heart beating out of my stomach,
yeah,
like it sunk down like a foot, and I could just feel it just in my stomach, just boo boo boo. Like, oh shit!
sweaty
So
Mark, just. Uh, but I'm sure you did great. Because you told me the part that you had written and explained to me their love of all things nerdy. So I thought it was super cute when you had told it to me, and I assumed that they would love it. So I'm glad that they did.
yeah, they did, and it ended up just really being a good time by all. And really, I was only worried about three opinions, and that was the bride and groom, obviously,
Yeah.
and the groom's mother.
Oh,
And I was like, if I can win, if she likes it, I'll be happy, because you know I've met her before when she came here to visit her son, and she's super cool, love her to death, and I was just like, I just want mom to be happy,
yeah.
because the bride and the groom are real easygoing, and so is the mom. I mean, it's not like she's like the super hard ass or anything, but I really wanted to kind of make the concerted effort. Like, if she's happy, I'm happy, everyone else is happy. You know, I don't want her to go back and be like, he did not call my son Alexander when he called him Alex instead of Alexander, you know, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if she would have got hung up on that, but I wanted to make sure it's like, cool, because I only get one shot at it, and if I hit it over the fence,
Yeah.
it's still a home run.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
if it's by an inch or a mile.
Hey, yo.
So,
Speaking of Lord of the Rings, the other night, I think it was Wednesday, it might have been Thursday, Chris said that they had like a ton of calls, but then he also got a call because one of the theaters was trying to do a showing for Lord of the Rings, and then they had a special video that they were going to put at the very end of the movie, I think after the credits or something like that. And the entire thing was sold out. They were trying to figure out how to put the video in there, and so Chris was able to help him out. Turns out it was like dude had, I don't know if he like bought the whole auditorium to watch the thing with like a bunch of like people that they know or something like that. But this dude was proposing to his girlfriend. And it was like the
oh,
very last thing that would have popped up on the screen is like him just doing this little proposal video and being like, yo, you want to get married? And so Chris told me that, and I was like, oh, that's really cute. Because I also can imagine how like expensive that might be unless you
yeah.
work for the theater. And then they're just like, yeah, 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 we'll do this for you guys. But
So
I thought it was
how?
sweet.
So let me ask the question now. How
Yes.
difficult is it to say, "Hey, listen, I have this video that I want to play after, I don't know, like you said, Lord of the Rings." How easy or hard is it to set that up?
I really don't know. That's the good thing about Chris. Are you talking about setting it up as in the person asking the manager? Or like the
No.
manager having to be like, how do I put this in here?
The manager. How do I put this in here?
Essentially, we could just make it a part of um, like, you know how you have like the commercials and stuff? We set all of those things up. Like,
Okay.
they send us like list of everything and then tell us, hey, put these in this specific order. put your movie time here after so many seconds or minutes or whatever, and then if there's anything at the end, they can just like drop it in there and it'll just
Okay.
hopefully play. But that's what he was trying to help him with, and he was like, "That's really cute."
Okay.
So yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Well, you ready to talk about something spooky?
Ooh. Yeah, are you ready to talk about your first time watching Trick or Treat?
I am.
Perfect. Mark, what did you think of this movie?
I'm torn on this movie, Raven.
Really?
I'm not sure if I like it or not.
Oh.
And I will say this, that I think, you know what? It's fine. I like it,
Mhm.
but there were parts of it when I was just like, what are we doing? you know? Uh it's kind of like a weird, like I am a sucker for anthology films. The four different stories all kind of tied together in some kind of loose way. Um and the I don't know. It was like nothing really just hit with me where I was like, "Oh, snap, this is so great." And but at the same time there was also nothing that I was like where I was like, "Oh, this is horrible and I don't ever want to see this."
Yeah.
You know? Plus there's like one scene that, like, I guess I'm fine with like gore and blood and guts and all of that, but there's this scene of like this kid throwing up, and God, I hate throwing up
Yeah.
in movies. Like, it was just so bad, and especially this because it was just so over the top.
It
I'm
was
like,
so
oh
much
God, please.
liquid just spewing out of that kid.
Right.
Oh,
And I was like, I don't want to see this no more. Um,
fair.
but I guess my overall thing is I'm not sure if I'm gonna come back to it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, so, and I've heard so many different things about this movie over the years, so I was kind of really curious to watch it because I never just got around to watching it. And I watched it and I was like, like, I like other movies, but like Krampus was a way better horror movie to me.
All right.
So,
This
what did
movie.
you think of it? Sorry.
So, no, you're good. I've watched this movie. I know I've definitely watched it at least one other time. I think I've watched it like maybe two times before. I know that people really love Sam, which is the little guy running around in the cute little onesie with the little mask and his cute little lollipop. And he's like kind of a horror icon, to be honest. So the fact that you're like, I don't know about this, um, it's fair. But Chris had always been like, I always think that he's like so cute, but I know that he's not gonna be good. And I was like, I mean, yeah, that's fair. I think that it's kind of fun. It's got a lot of like weird, interesting parts to it, like for the fact of Sam, that he's actually just made of pumpkin and his hand was just like scooting around doing the Evil Dead 2 thing. And Chris and
Yeah.
I were like, oh, what if he gives him the bird? Because that was hilarious in Evil Dead 2. Um, but I really do like, I do love Sam. Like, I think he's just such a cute little part to throw in. I like his little actual face of being some like weird sunken in pumpkin alien thing.
Yeah.
What did you feel about the part where you see the werewolves, where they're transforming?
Okay. So I will say this. All right. So this is all kind of based around the fact that you thought that the one guy, Steven, Dylan Baker's character, that I thought he was done, that he wasn't going to come back. So that was wonderful. But I thought that when he showed up, I was like, okay. When he showed up around all the other girls and dropped out of the tree and he's all bloody and stuff, I'm like, oh, he's a fake vampire and Anna Paquin is a real vampire. This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then they turned into werewolves and I was like, holy crap, because I love werewolves.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh no, this is awesome. This is a twist I was not expecting. And I will not knock them for the werewolves looking kind of cheesy because
Yeah.
I get where this movie's coming from. They ain't have no $1 million budget, and I'm
No.
okay with that. But I will say I enjoyed that scene. I
Yeah.
enjoyed because that was a good kind of little payoff. The fact that she's dressed up like Little Red Riding Hood, and she turns out to be the wolf, and just there was like little sprinklings in there that happen, or that you kind of see throughout, and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. But
Yeah.
that part I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Chris had told me after we watched that scene that can't remember who the D&D people that he's like obsessed with are, but that they're currently doing like a Halloween type horror campaign, and some guy has a werewolf that he basically does the same thing where he sheds his, like, he just rips his skin off and stuff like that, and that he's like super into horror. So Chris was like, I think he probably got this idea from like this movie. Because I really do like the concept of not just like, oh no, all this hair starts forming on you and stuff. But yeah, I do.
That was a really cool transformation
Yeah,
scene.
no, that was
Like,
super cool.
yeah. Um, I'm looking at IMDb right now,
Yeah.
and it's funny that I should say that. Oh, how much I liked Krampus better than Trick or Treat. Same writer.
Ah, look at that.
Yeah, but um, I almost kind of wish that um, Sam was a little pumpkinhead kid, right?
Yes.
That he would have been like kind of our main antagonist, you know, and then it would have been like, oh, he was one of the kids that died in the bus accident, and he's not. But that's kind of the thing. Like, I think I would have appreciated him more if he would have been like a Jason style killer bent on revenge.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of was in
Kind
that
of.
like little scene of like they drove past him when the school bus driver was like, I don't know what. Okay, so let's talk about that scene where you know that the school bus driver is taking special needs kids that are all dressed up for Halloween, like to this weird little spot, and it's saying their parents got together and they decided that they wanted him to do something about it. And it's like, what was the plan here? Because I thought initially that the whole time it was just going to be like, send the bus off. But he had them chained up, was giving them candy, and then got surprised when kid starts trying to like drive off, and he's like, "Oh no!"
Right.
Like, what was his actual plan? Because it seems a little sketchy now that I think about it.
Yeah, I was kind of worried about that too. Like, because he was giving the kids candy, right? What
Yeah.
what could it have been like? I guess his initial plan was to like give the kids the candy, and then that would have drugged them a little bit, so that way they would just been like,
Oh
I
yeah.
guess for the lack of better terms, died in peace.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe give him a little bit of a sedation type thing, so then that way, I
Yeah,
guess you shoot the bus off. But
yeah,
you find out that bus driver makes it out after everyone's like, nobody knows what happens to the bus driver. And then you realize that Sam's like, hey, I've seen you before. I'm a I'm gonna slice and dice you up, my good sir. Trying to think. Oh, I don't really know how I felt about like the initial couple that you see walking around, where the chick's the robot and then homeboy is. I don't even know what he was, to be honest. Because you
Yeah,
just kind of.
well,
What?
I was just
Yes?
gonna say, yeah, that didn't really make any sense because it was just they were there was no seemingly like motivation for them to die, or at least for the girl to die, because
She
she,
blew the pumpkin out, dude.
I
It's
guess, but
respect.
that's not motivation enough because we don't shut up. Why that's bad.
Oh,
it
it's just a pumpkin. It's fine. If it's a fresh pumpkin, then it should be fine.
I suppose.
But,
But
I guess because that was kind of like a theme, and I know that you like, hey, if this is a theme, then we stick with it, and if you divert from it, then screw you guys.
yeah.
Where they were like, oh, you got to keep the pumpkins lit, because I mean, homegirl in the little elevator left those other three kids. She had her pumpkin lit, and they were like, all right, I guess we're just gone now. It's an interesting way that they have like little tie-ins everywhere.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
will. I will kind of give credit where credit's due again in saying that they did kind of make the concerted effort to lay groundwork, to give you a lot of callbacks, and here's the reason for doing this, and here's our motivation, for doing this certain thing, and it was good.
yeah,
Well, yeah, the
I know what you
concept
mean.
was good.
Yeah,
Yeah, they get a valiant effort because it wasn't one of those things where um uh there at no point in this movie was I ever going like, what in the world are we doing here? Why is this thing happening? This is absurd. um so I do give props to that. It is executed to varying different, to varying different degrees of success, but I wasn't angry with it.
mhm.
You know, I was just almost kind of bored, but I wasn't like, I'm right on the verge
I feel like
of.
this is Dave made a maze because you were like, I don't know if I like it or if I don't like it. I don't know if I would watch it again or not. I feel like this is once again you being on the fence of just like, I don't know.
Yes, yeah, I am right on the verge of that. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a weird feeling because my bar is kind of low. It does not take a lot to keep me entertained.
That's fair.
And this is just kind of just right at that thing. And I guess maybe I suffer from the uh kind of like the hype of it, where I've heard people over the years, because this movie is what, 15 years old now at least.
Yeah, it was made in 2007, I think.
Yeah. So I've listened to people for the past 15 years go, oh my God, this movie's so great. You'll love it. This is just the most amazing thing you'll ever see. It's the birth of a franchise. And I guess I walked in with like my
Expecting hype.
expectation,
Yeah.
right, expecting so much. And then when I got there, I was like, oh, it's just it's just a regular horror movie. And I think if I just would have watched this on my own without having any outside interference, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, this is this is my jam." But I guess I got too hype.
I guess I understand where you're coming from because considering the fact that it is from 2007, which in that time period, it probably would have been like, one of those movies that's really good. But we've seen a lot come out in the last few years where you just get a lot of like different genres of horror, and it's not always just like gore, and it's not always just like psych, psychological, like trauma and stuff like that. And so
Right.
there's like different aspects. So I think if you had watched it sooner, it probably would have been like, okay, I can deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's fair. I,
Um, what'd you think of the very first story well, full story we see, where the one with the puking kid and stuff,
oh my
um,
goodness. Yeah.
and that kid's in the ground, and I guess he wakes up and that dude is just stomping the shit out of him, like, just
Yeah.
shut up, you're gonna blow the whole thing.
While his neighbors over there like, wait, who is that? Wait, what are you doing over there? And it's like, dude, do you know that you have neighbors? He's like peeking through the hole. What are you doing down there?
Right. He's like, oh, my septic tank was messed up. Like, no, it's not. Shut up. You ain't in your backyard on Halloween night digging up your septic tank.
But meanwhile, his kid's literally up in like the window just screaming at him, Dad, can we carve the pumpkins? Will you help me with the eyes? And he's like, Billy, shut up,
I felt that
dude.
in my soul.
I assumed. Because I can imagine that you're just like, hey, look, this is a moment where we
Right.
don't need to scream because we are being, sneaky, sneaky.
Right. I need you to be quiet so we can do this thing. Please be quiet. Okay, I'll be quiet, Dad,
Right?
but you're never going to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, especially for you. But, in so I started taking notes at the very beginning of the movie, but then I remembered how the movie was set up and I was like, it's too complicated for me to try and even take notes on this thing. And so I wrote in my notes, I was like, man, if you don't like kids, maybe you should just take your son out instead. Just also, you're a principal, so don't work with kids if that's your big issue, my good sir. And so then you get to the part where he's like, let's go downstairs into the basement to carve the pumpkin. And kid's like, yeah, 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 let's go. He sits in front of them, you see the knife, and he just like does the big stab. And Chris is like, did he really just kill his own kid? And then it like, dives on down. So you see that no, he did not kill his kid. Him and his kid are just casually doing somehow a jack-o'-lantern on an actual kid's head.
Yeah.
Which I'm very curious what he meant by will you help me with the eyes? What was the plan that we're doing with this kid's head? You just carving him out, pulling him out, like, you know, somehow make a mask of the face? Ugh.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. Um, I do kind of like the reveal. Again, this is some of that groundwork laying thing where what's his face, Mister Crazy Old Man from next door, Mr. Krieg.
Yes.
When Mr. Krieg is like, you see him, he's like, help, 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 and I'm like, oh yeah, he's about to die, and then we flash to like his perspective or whatever at the end of the movie, and once little old Sam was running around, and he like the last tale where he is kind of the main bad guy of that little part.
Mm.
I was like, oh crap, this is the bus driver. And I was like, and again, this was kind of the part or one of the parts where this tickles a very particular spot in my brain where I was like, oh yeah, good, a good old fashioned call back. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this guy's gonna get it. I know who he is and he deserves, like, that's how I would have wrote. Here's the thing. I know that I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about it, but everything that they did in this movie is how I would have done this movie. Been like, okay, cool. We have little to no budget.
Well, well,
Here's how we're going
well.
to do this. This is it. I can't really complain because I really genuinely liked it, but not enough to be like, oh, it's the greatest thing I've ever fucking seen. So yeah, it's like right there, man.
Yeah. You're
I'm
like
almost
right on
kind
the
of upset.
verge.
I'm almost kind of upset that I don't like it more.
Hmm. I don't know. Maybe it's that you got to watch it for round two, and then you can be like, "Oh, okay. Now I get whatever."
M- Maybe.
Because I know that sometimes with you that kind of works, where you're like, "Ah." I know it kind of works on me sometimes. Not gonna lie. Like how I told you that with Evil Dead 1, I was like, this movie is stupid. We watched Evil Dead 2, and I was like, okay, hold on. Evil Dead 3. You know what? This franchise is a little weird. I'm sorry I hated on Evil Dead 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, my childhood growing up, my grandparents loved like the old school horror, and then my grandfather was like, that's mostly where I kind of stand on most of it. Some of the new stuff he'll watch with us, but I did a lot of like watching just anything with my grandmother. We would watch low budget films that are just like, yeah, they're a little trash, but whatever, to like blood and gore, to the psychological stuff. There's a lot of times that my mom or my grandmother and I would watch like psychological stuff, and then we would both just like sit there in like silence until eventually one of us just looks at each the other person and was like, "So I guess it's time to go to bed." Like neither of us just knew what to do.
I
But
guess
normally,
that was a thing.
yeah, because normally after most movies we'd be like, "Okay, good night." It like, you know, it's not just one of those things where you just kind of like sit there and you're like, I have to now contemplate my life because I just watched Hereditary and neither of us know what to say. But yeah, I think that this is a pretty good movie. I'm not going to say that it's like in my top faves, but I definitely do like it. Would recommend.
Cool. Well, I might give it another chance, but um but not I don't know. I might try to give it another chance and see if I can't look at it through new eyes later on down the road, but it's just not I'm not going to rush out to do it.
True. Fair enough. Well,
All right. Well,
that's all I got to say about it.
me too. All right. Well, let's move on to my favorite part of the week. Let's talk about the things that made us happy this past week. Raven, go ahead.
This past week has been very busy. I'm not even going to lie. My grandmother is currently or she was dog sitting for my aunt and uncle because they went out of town. So almost every day after work, I would just like go hang out with her and then get home at 9 o'clock and then be like, I gotta walk the dogs, feed the dogs, take a shower. And I was exhausted most days of the week. But it was really nice to be able to hang out with her because I haven't really seen my grandparents much in the last few months just because, you know, we get busy, we do things on the weekends, they get busy, they also do things on the weekends. So that was really nice for us to have a lot of time together. But when Chris and I watched the movie, I went out and I got us. There's a cheese store here in Knoxville. It's called Euphoric Cheese. Yeah, that's what it's called. And you walk in and they just have like cases where they just have like different kinds of cheese. And then, like, on some of the walls, there's like crackers and different little spreads and stuff. So I went and I got us some nice little fancy cheeses and some cute little like bread and biscuits, not biscuits. You call those things crackers. Goodness. And so we just had like a nice little like lunch where we just had our own little charcuterie board of just stuff that we like. And whenever we do that, it's always like such a nice time for us to just like hang out and do that because we love cheese so much. But yeah, we've just spent a lot of time together recently. I don't remember if I had mentioned on one of the last episodes, but him and I carved pumpkins and hung out with our dogs. And so right now, things are just going great because that's what we love. We like the nice weather, hanging out, chilling with the boys, and that's what I can say that I am the most thankful for. Period.
Cool.
How about you, Mark? What's made you happy this week?
Oh boy.
Strap
Vegas as
in.
a whole. Yeah, Vegas as a whole, because Vegas is a vibe in and unto itself. But seeing as how I didn't do like the big thing that you do when you go to Vegas, and that's get hammered and play gambling, uh, I didn't do that. I had a couple drinks, but I'm not that really big a drinker anymore. But I had a drink. I had a few drinks here and there, mainly because I wanted to be as much like top form as I could. You know, I didn't want to be hungover up there in front of everybody going,
Yeah.
did you do the thing? Um, but uh, I guess my happiness started when I got to Vegas, and the guy who I was sharing a hotel room with got there like 30 minutes before me. So as I touched down and took my phone off of airplane mode, he was like, "Hey man, I've landed. I'm in the shuttle. I'm on the way to the hotel." And I was like, "But the hotel does not have a shuttle. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, well, if you go talk to these people, it's like $15 for a shuttle bus to take you to any hotel casino you want if it's like within reason." I'm like, "Oh,
Mm.
that's crazy cheap, because for an Uber on a Friday night in Vegas from the airport to Fremont Street was like $45."
Ooh.
I was like, "Holy crap." And I looked on Lyft, I looked on everything, and it was all the same price. I'm like, "This is nonsense." So I booked the shuttle to and from um, the hotel we were staying at for cheaper than it would have cost me for a one-way ticket to the hotel. So that was good thing number one. Went, met up, ate some delicious ramen, went to bed, slept horribly that first night. I had the worst headache imaginable. Could
Mm.
not shake it. But next day we get up, I eat the biggest pancake I've ever seen in my life. It was huge. I'm serious. I was like, "Man, these are like $16 pancakes. These things better be good." Thinking they were going to give me like some cheap pancakes. This pancake was literally the size of my head. It was awesome.
Ooh.
And then we went to the wedding rehearsal, and we thought that was going to last a couple hours to lead us into the rehearsal dinner. It didn't. It lasted like an hour, and then we had like literally like 5-6 hours left to burn. So we decided we were going to go to a Renaissance fair in Vegas that was just in some park. It wasn't at a casino, it was just in a park. I'm like, "Okay, let's see what happens." And we go, and it was a blast. I had such a good time. It was warm, but it wasn't too hot. It was, again, just a whole vibe. Everyone was there dressed up and just having a good time, and it was so much fun. And I tried on, I'm going to send you a picture, and I will post this to our socials, of we were walking around, and they have like the all the different armor and clothes, medieval clothes and stuff that you can buy and wear and everything else. And there was this jacket that was sitting on a rack, and I was like, "Oh my god, this jacket looks awesome. I need to." And my buddy was like, "You should buy this and wear this to the wedding." And I was like, "Man, you're right, I should, but it costs like $775." And
Mm.
then I put it on and seriously thought about buying it because it fit me better than any jacket has ever fit me before. And I sent you the picture, and I want you to see this
I
royal
see it.
majesty.
That thing looks nice.
It was great.
Did it
Um,
feel? Did it have like a good weight to it?
oh, it was perfect.
Oh.
Everything about that jacket was absolute. It's funny you should say the weight, because that was the one thing I noticed when I put it on. I was like, "Damn, this sucker feels weighty, but not too much."
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm telling you, that jacket was fantastic. It's almost, I've thought about this jacket almost nonstop since I put it on. And it
Oh
was just
no.
so expensive. And even if I would have been like, "Hey man, do you do a military discount?" And then 10% off that jacket still would have been $700.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
just too much. Too much.
It's fair.
Uh, but the Ren Fair was super cool. Had a good time. Um, when we get, oh, and then we get to the rehearsal dinner, and I'm meeting like grandparents and uh, uncles and stuff, and I team up with the groom's uncle, and me and this dude hit it off like good. I think we're best friends now. I'm not real sure. His name was Adam. This dude was off the rail. I don't want to say off the rails. That made it sound like he was crazy. This dude was awesome. We started talking. I can only imagine we rode from the restaurant to a casino where we were just going to hang out. We were planning on going to a bar at the casino, and we never ended up going to the bar. We sat in like one of the casino bars and just talked for like 2-3 hours, like all of us sitting there talking together. And me and the uncle rode in the back seat of this one dude's car, and we talked the whole time. And about halfway through the trip, I was like, I wonder what the people in the front are just thinking about us, because me and him have not shut up the whole time. And we're just talking about football and, where you're from and what you're doing and all this. And it was great. Me and this dude hit it off really good. I really like this dude. I hope I get to go to Southern California, to Los Angeles, and just genuinely hang out with the groom's family, his mom, his grandmother, his uncle. I had
Aw.
such a good time talking to them people. They were awesome. And just to kind of give you an idea of how, like, the vibe at this wedding, I know I talked a little bit earlier about how it was all kind of Lord of the Rings themed. I was sitting at a table with a group of people. I had no clue who they were. And I was like, hey, how do you know the Alexes? And they were like, oh, we met them through Star Wars cosplaying. And I'm like, oh, cool. And because they were part of the 501st, which is a Star Wars cosplay organization and all that. And they met them through that and dressing up as stormtroopers and all that kind of cool stuff. And there was this one girl sitting there. And she said that she met them through someone else, and now they play D&D together. And I was like, that's how I know them too. And she was talking to the other people. And at one point I was listening to her story that I kind of came in, that I kind of started focusing on a little bit later. I didn't catch the initial part of this conversation, but I guess she's part of some cosplaying group that dresses up as fairies or something at the Ren Fair.
Ooh.
I'm not really sure how we got there, but she was talking about this kind of, I guess, whoever the leader of this group is and how they kind of raise money so they can go do different things and all of this other stuff. And I wish I could tell you what in the hell this girl was talking about. I have no idea, except she kept referring to everyone as fairies. So it's like, oh yeah, she's kind of like our lead fairy and she collects the money, but then she didn't spend the money on what she needed to. So now all of us other fairies in the fairy group. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
I was zoned in. I had no clue what she was talking about. And I never felt older in my entire life, but I was locked into this story. Yeah, it was insane. And that's the vibe of this whole wedding, where people were talking. I mean, people were in literal suits with fairy wings, like Spirit Halloween fairy wings coming out of the back of them. It was so much fun.
That just sounds like such a great time with like so many cool, just fun people.
It was I mean, and it wasn't a big wedding either.
Yeah.
Like, there might have been 40 people max there, but I've been to weddings before where they literally have like hundreds of people.
Yep.
Like they rent out a whole barn, for the lack of better terminology. They rent out a whole barn and there's just hundreds of people in there, and and the bride and groom are making their rounds, and it takes them like an hour and a half to hit every table and talk to everybody and do all this, and everybody and their uncles there. This was not that. Like, there was what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tables of people. I think maybe 6 at each. So yeah, about between 30 and 40 people were there. And it was such a good time, man. And I genuinely feel really honored to have been there and officiated that thing. And yeah. And a little secret between you and me and everyone listening to this podcast, once it was all said and done, we got done. They did their I do's, and I said, hey, everybody, here's the bride and groom. and they walk out, and then I follow behind them, and I get inside, and I'm kind of waiting for everyone else to come inside, and my body dumps like whatever dumb brain chemical it is, where it's like, you did it. Here's every chemical. You're happy, you're sad, like everything just kind of let loose at the same time. And I was like, oh crap, I'm about to have a breakdown. I'm about to
Oh,
start crying. I have to go somewhere real quick. And I like dipped out outside, like out the front for a second to just kind of like breathe.
yeah.
And I was like, oh man, like it wasn't like panic attacky or anything, but it was like I could tell. I was like, holy crap, like it's over. Oh, I need to go outside and be away from people because because it definitely was. I've been so worked up about this for literal months that once it was all over with, it was a big sigh of relief. So yeah,
Nice.
and that's what's made me happy.
Hey man, I get it. Trust me. When my best friend got married, and then like me and her sister were the bridesmaids, and then his best man was like his best friend. At like after the wedding, I was like, I'm so happy for her, but I'm so sad because now she's moving away and blah blah blah. So I get it. And I wasn't even like doing too much. Her wedding was tiny because it was like right as COVID was like doing its thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that sounds like a great time. Our wedding was also like about that many people, and so we also got to meet a lot of like the groom's family, and Chris was like, his family is so nice. Like they would just come over and be like, "We're so glad that you guys are here." And the groom's dad is like probably like he was in his 80s or something like that. But he'd just like come over and he'd just like chat with everyone and be like, "Ah, so how you guys know my boy and this and that. Well, we're so glad you could be here." And then he like paid for any of the people that like stayed in the hotel that he booked rooms for. He was like, "I'm gonna pay for it all." And Chris was like, "Dang." At one point, it was just like a bunch of like couples dancing on the dance floor, and Chris had pulled me out onto the dance floor, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to ask Drew's dad if he's looking for like a side piece? I know he's been married to his mom for like a hot minute, but like," and I was like, "Sure, let's dance over there." So he bumps into him. He's like, "Hey, man, is your dad looking for, a sugar baby?" And he's just like, "Nah, dude, dad's been married happily for like 50 something years. Good luck trying to get him away from mom." And we were like, "Hey, we get it. We thought we'd try." But yeah, I'm glad we both had wonderful experiences at weddings that gave us a little bit of anxiety. But do the do and say I do.
Yep, we did the dang old thing.
Hey, yo. Well,
All right,
with
Raven. Well, why
that,
don't you tell everybody where they can find us on the social media?
if you're looking for your little podcast that you like to listen to, it's called Nerd for No Reason, and you can find us on whatever social media you want. We got I'm still calling it Twitter, fight me. We got the Twitters, we got the Instagram, we got the threads, we got Facebook, I think we still have technically. We do have a Tickery Talkery. Find us, do whatever, come chat with us. You can find me on Instagram at That's So Raven Ellis or on Twitter at spooky_raven. Mark, where are you located?
I am on all the social medias at Turtles Do It. Um, Twitter, Threads, uh, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, you can find me there. Find me on all of them for sure. Um, Raven, this has been super fun. I've missed this.
I miss chatting with you. We've been so busy.
We have been busy. But now we're getting into the holiday season where we get to be more busy.
Ooh, the real spookiness. The spooky scaries.
Right. It's the spookiest of all the seasons. Uh,
Oh.
Everybody, make sure you like, rate, and review, and all that other good, fantastical stuff on your favorite podcast app of choice. And please go and do something wonderful in the world today.
You guys go ingest some super cool medias, and we will see you here next week on the Nerd for No Reason podcast. Goodbye.